what's going on? Welcome. My bad, y'all. Had the DJ in the background again. What's going on? Man, welcome to another live quarantine TV episode of Real Fans, Real Talk. Oh man, it's been a hell of a weekend, man. We got football on Saturdays again, Eric. I know you're happy about that one.
Come on, I'll be happy if we have football every day. But yes, definitely Saturday and Sunday. Yes, absolutely.
Yes, we got a whole lot going on. We got some big baseball news. You see I'm Yankeed out today with the sophisticated minds Yankee hoodie, you know. But yeah, man, we got a lot to get into. But let me introduce my co-host first, the one and only legend in two games, Eric Sanchez. What's going on, man?
What's really good, man? Super excited to get it going. I know it's a little later than we normally do on Sundays, but it's still perfect timing because we got a big time Sunday night game we got to get into. I want to wish everybody happy holidays. We're a week away from Christmas.
Yes, sir. It is that time of the. I should have had my Santa Claus hat on today, and I was gonna wear it today, but then the Yankees made that big signing, so I said, you know what? Let me rep the home team this week. I'll save my my Santa Claus hat. But yeah, man, there's a lot to get into. Football is we starting to get into the thick of things. It's almost playoff time. So we're starting to get that good old Saturday football. Three great games yesterday. Today's games actually weren't all that great. You know, because there's a couple of games that was just like, they got the Cardinals and Broncos going on right now. That game is a battle of the bummy backups. So, but let's get into things, man. We got and I hate that we got to start with your guys, Eric, but I hate you up during this game because I'm like, oh shoot, they got this thing going, and then I look down for a second, I look back up, and the Colts blow the biggest lead in NFL history, and the Minnesota Vikings are able to clinch the NFC North, and stay in the hunt for the best record in the NFC period. So having home field throughout the playoffs if they continue this, and the Eagles slip up along the way. But talk to me, man. What happened, man? I don't even understand this one. That 33 points is crazy.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you what happened. Matt Ryan is completely washed up, and there are people. I've had some debates with people, but yesterday specifically, where people was like, "Oh, that's terrible coaching." No, that's not on Jeff Saturday, and I'm gonna tell you why it's not on Jeff Saturday. You go back and look. The Colts in the second half had a total of 41 offensive yards. Right? They did absolutely nothing to secure that lead. And if you watch the whole game like I did, the first half of that game the Colts defense was on the field, I believe, for 21 of a possible 30 minutes. They were on the field. And the reason they were on the field so much was because their defense got a pick six. They blocked the punt for a touchdown. The first 3 points that the Colts offense got was due to a long kick return. So the Colts offense did absolutely nothing in that first half to give them that lead. It was more about their defense and special teams doing all the heavy lifting. And in the second half, when they just needed a couple of first downs to ice the game, unfortunately, Jonathan Taylor had gone out early in that game. But when they needed a couple first downs, Matt Ryan couldn't make a throw. The offensive line couldn't block, and they couldn't run the ball. And that's how you blow a 33-point lead on the road.
Yeah, it got ugly pretty fast.
Yeah, thank you. And I want to thank you for reminding me, Trip, because I was trying to take it easy today. But now since you made me go on that rant, now I just figured, hey, let's get started.
It's early in the show, so I figure I'll let you get it out your system now. Yeah, Matt Ryan is obviously is done. It's over for him. It's that time. This is the second time he's blown a lead of this magnitude going into the fourth quarter of the game. I was completely shocked that the Colts were up the way they were up, especially with Jonathan Taylor being hurt. I'm like, oh, okay, let me find out. Coach got them doing their thing. He was it's Jeff Saturday coaching on the Saturday. I thought everything was running smooth, and yeah, and then it just then Matt Ryan happened, and things just started to slow down. And
Yeah, I really don't think this is on Jeff Saturday. And I know there are people who still don't like the hire of Jeff Saturday. It doesn't matter how you feel about it. He's an interim coach. He may not survive the season, obviously, because he's only got one win as a head coach. But to me, again, when you just need your offense to maybe get 2 first downs to win a game, they could not get any first downs. And I don't see how we could just blame only the coaching when it's like, all right, we're giving you the plays. You guys got to execute something. You just can't keep giving it back to where our defense has to do it again. The defense and special teams in this game gave them 14 points, really 17, because the first 3 was due to a kick return. So half of your points came from your defense and special teams. I need the offense to do something.
Yeah, it got ugly real fast, and Minnesota got some receivers, boy. That's all I say. They got a couple of receivers, KJ and Justin Jefferson. Adam Thielen even chimed in for a touchdown. Shoot, Kirk Cousins was looking like all pro quarterback out there. 400 yards, like 4 touchdowns. Like he was killing this. He was killing this week. He fought back. I guess he wanted to let people know, that the Vikings ain't no joke. They are here to stay. They're a legitimate playoff contender. And they're still in the hunt for the number 1 seed in the NFC. I know Eagles fans was like, damn, they let them come back in this one. We could have put a little distance in between us. But yeah, no, man, Minnesota, they did what they were supposed to do. A hell of a comeback win. I got to tip my hat to all of those guys. Dalvin Cook, even because we talked about Dalvin Cook a little a week or two ago, and how he wasn't playing like the Dalvin Cook that we've come to know and love, and he turned on the Jets, both receiving and running the football in this game. And Minnesota fought hard, man. They did what they had to do, and they came back and they got that W, man. Like I have nothing bad to say. I mean, obviously, I would like them to start this thing off a little early, because I didn't even think, there was a chance in hell that the Colts could even put up that many points, but they did what they had to do, and defense, like as you mentioned, played very well. Special teams, for the Colts, but the offense just did not come through in the second half, and that was an ugly loss.
Oh yeah, I mean, and the Colts offense has struggled all year, specifically in the red zone. I think they're the worst team in terms of converting red zone opportunities into actual touchdowns. But if you would have told me beforehand, oh, the Colts are going to score 30, what was it, 36 points they scored, 33 points, whatever it was, I would have said it's going to have to be some combination of special teams and defense doing it, because the offense just isn't built in that manner to get it done for you. And so that's what they got. It worked out perfectly for the Colts in terms of what do you need to win this game on the road. You need some special teams luck. You're going to need some defensive help. They got both those things. Justin Jefferson, man, I've said it before, and we can have the debate with anybody who would like to have the debate. He might be the best receiver in football, man, because I saw him match up with Stephon Gilmore. Stephon Gilmore is still an elite cornerback in this league. Stephon Gilmore was winning that matchup early in the game. And then Justin Jefferson kind of went into another gear in the second half of that game, and he was wide open. I mean, the Colts were double teaming him, triple teaming him, which leads to a point where Adam Thielen starts getting open now, Dalvin Cook. The Vikings, I believe, are 9-0 in one possession games. They had the great comeback in Buffalo. They had the great comeback yesterday. The only time this year that they really looked bad was that Eagle game on that Monday night. But they're going to be tough come playoff time, because they can move the ball and they can score points. Yesterday showed that even if they had lost that game, the fact that they put up 30 points in the second half of that game would have showed you how explosive they are. So they're going to be a dangerous team come playoff time.
Yeah, I wasn't sure the first half of the season, but they have continued to show and prove that they are legit. I mean, I obviously I know from the receiver standpoint they're legit, because they got that guy you mentioned, Justin Jefferson. But that team as a whole has continued to get better week by week, and they not only showing me, they showing the world that they are legit. And they do plan on making a nice run throughout this playoffs. So
yeah, I agree. They're tough, man.
Much respect to the Minnesota Vikings. Again, that 33-point deficit was the largest in the history of the NFL, and they were able to come back. A team you talked about them beating earlier, the Buffalo Bills. They clinched their playoff berth. They clinched the AFC East. Very tough division this season, because at one point all 4 of those teams were in playoff contention. I believe today with the Jets lost, they're out of it now. The Patriots are trying to keep their hopes alive right now against the Las Vegas Raiders. very close game that came down to the wire between them and the Miami Dolphins. But just talk to me about the Bills and where you see them going, and how far you see them going in this playoff run.
Well, the Bills are a threat. The Bills are a legitimate Super Bowl contender. I'm still worried about the loss of Von Miller and how they're going to be able to generate a pass rush. And you saw it yesterday too, and the offense kind of got it going again yesterday. Tyreek, Waddle, they were getting everybody involved and throwing the ball around. So for Buffalo, that's going to be the biggest thing. Can they generate a pass rush when they have to face a Mahomes or Joe Burrow in the playoffs? But for me, they are a legitimate Super Bowl contender. I think they're not better than Kansas City right now, but I think they're probably a step beneath them. I think they're on the same level kind of with Cincinnati right now. And I know that sounds crazy to say because they beat Kansas City, but remember they beat Kansas City with Von Miller. It's a different team without Von Miller. It's a different team without that type of pass rush, which they rely on so that they can sit in a lot of zone coverages and not give up the big plays down the field. So I like Buffalo a lot. I think they just continue to prove to us that they are an elite team in this league. And Super Bowl contender, only time will tell. You know, if they can get home field advantage, that'll go a long way to helping them get to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And again, we spoke about the difference in the Rams from last year being Super Bowl champions to this year without Von Miller on that defense. And now we're saying the same things in regards to the Bills without Von Miller on that defense. I mean that in the game that really came down to the wire, Miami pretty much did, whatever they wanted for the most part during that game. That it was a back and forth game. Miami definitely had a chance to win that game. So they're I don't know if they're gonna have to make some tweaks on the defensive side of the football. Obviously, you can't make up for Von Miller and what he brings to your defense, but they're gonna have to do something because come playoff time, when you have to deal with Patrick Mahomes, it's going to be tough. There's a couple other guys in the AFC that you're gonna have to deal with along the way to get if you're trying to get to a Super Bowl. That they're gonna have to step that defensive game up. That's number one, and then number two, in regards to Josh Allen, I know everybody is quick to dawn him as the next up. He's the next big thing. He has to watch out for them turnovers. He's had several.
But yeah, yesterday he had a clean game though. Yesterday he had a clean game. But yes, leading up to yesterday, we talked about that plenty of times as well. That he was starting to get a little careless with the ball.
Yeah, so he's gonna have to keep that up where he's not turning over the football because you cannot turn over the football versus a guy like Patrick Mahomes. You can't do that. You will go home early again if you mess around like that. If I'm the Bills, I'm trying to win out because I do not want to give the Kansas City Chiefs a chance to take back home field advantage. That's the one thing that the Bills have to keep in mind. If you lose home field advantage and that thing goes to the Chiefs, it's going to get real rough for you in the playoffs. Great win for them though, against another playoff contending team. But they have to keep that up. They have to step it up on the defensive end of the football, and they also they got to win out. They cannot take any chances in letting Kansas City get that number one seed back.
Yeah, as you mentioned, they got to win out. I'm sorry, I didn't realize I was muted. My bad, man. But they got to win out. They're tied with Kansas City right now, but they do have the tiebreaker because they beat Kansas City earlier this year. But they got the Bears next week. Bears are a feisty team. We saw that today. That's in Chicago. They get the Bengals after that, which is going to be a big game because the Bengals are battling for their division right now, and they're actually putting together a comeback right now against Tampa Bay. And then they end the year against the Patriots, and that game could mean something for the Patriots because right now, if the Patriots find a way to come back and win today, the Patriots would be in the playoff mix because the Dolphins lost and also the Jets lost. The Jets loss today was big, man. That was big for them. They needed to take advantage of Miami losing yesterday, and they didn't. They're making it tougher for themselves.
Yep, and I knew it. I did once I first of all I was hyped. I was hyped because I picked up Mike White in fantasy football. But once I seen that Mike White wasn't going to play today, I said I don't think they're going to win this game. I don't. And not that Zach Wilson had a bad game. He did have the one interception, but Eric, you and I both know that depending on who's behind center, it's just a different feel on the football field. I think those guys kind of they play harder for Mike White. They feel like they can win with Mike White behind center. And the fact that he went down and they had to bring Zach Wilson back in, I don't think Zach Wilson has the locker room. He doesn't have those guys full support and belief that he can get the job done for them. Obviously we know how potent the Lions offense has been this all season. They've, St. Brown, Jamal Williams and those guys, Jared Goff. The Rams might have wanted to keep Jared Goff, seeing the way he's playing with the Lions. But this was a game that the Jets could have won. This is a game that the Jets should have won, and a game that they needed to win, especially when you saw Miami fall day before to Buffalo. You have to win that game, and it sucks for the Jets because they've been playing really well all season. Um, I think they'll continue to get better, but they need some stability at quarterback. I think Mike White is the guy that gives them that. Moving forward, I don't have any belief in Zach Wilson that he can get the job. I mean, I didn't even when he was drafted by the Jets, I didn't really think that he was going to be this great thing that I guess a lot of other people did. But yeah, they blew a prized opportunity to continue their playoff hopes. They didn't do that. Unfortunately, they're going to have to get back to the drawing board next year. The only thing they can do now is hope to play spoiler.
Yeah, I mean, I'm holding off on the criticism of Zach Wilson because I think that the hype behind Zach Wilson was created by the media. And now that he's struggling, the same media now is kind of tearing him down a little bit. We got to remember, he was still very raw when the Jets drafted him. And that's why I never liked when people said things like, oh, he has Patrick Mahomes' ability. Look at the arm angles and the arm strength. Yeah, that sounds great, but you're still talking about a guy who's very raw at the quarterback position, who's still learning to play the position. And mind you, he was at BYU. He wasn't at a Power 5 school where he was going up against some of the best competition in the world. So, of course, he was going to look good at times. For me, the issue with Zach Wilson really comes down to Robert Saleh and the way he handled the benching. Because had he just said, hey, we're going to bench the kid because he needs to watch a little bit and be a little better prepared, I think we would have all understood that. We saw that game against the Patriots when they lose on a punt return and their offense did nothing. But not only did you bench the kid, you didn't even dress him for 2 weeks. So now, as you mentioned, if I'm in the locker room, what am I to think of this guy as my quarterback? Because you're not even dressing him as a backup now. You're treating him as if he's some scrub that's never going to play for us. And so now that you need him, it's like, oh, well, let's get you back. Let's get you ready to go. And let's hope everyone's confident in you. It doesn't work that way. The human element of all this is I see this guy in street clothes for 2 straight weeks. My own head coach won't even let him dress. So I've got to assume he's not good enough to be our quarterback. And he did play well today. Like I said, over 300 yards passing. He did have the one bad interception. But I think overall, this is who the Jets are too. We can't get ahead of ourselves. I know the Jets have looked good at times this year, but the Jets were way ahead of schedule. No one saw them being this type of team this year. So I don't want to judge them and say, oh, that's it. They let it fall apart. No, they've played above their head at times, and then other times they've played beneath themselves. Detroit is a tough team to play. I told you this a couple weeks ago when Detroit played the Giants. We saw when Detroit played Buffalo now against the Jets. They put pressure on you because they're going to score. They're going to get up and down the field, and they're going to score. And Jared Goff is having a great year. They're a dangerous team that now, if they get in the mix, they're one of those teams that, yeah, they won't win a Super Bowl, but you probably wouldn't want to play them in playoffs because they probably going to still put about 24 to 28 points on you and make it a very difficult game.
Yeah, no, you're definitely right. And that'd be my problem, when we talk about the conferences in college football. And I'm just like, listen, man, there's a huge difference between the SECs and these other conferences, man. The SEC is like that's NFL ready conference right there. They need to call that the NFC, in college. That's NFL ready right there.
Right. And you and I, we had this conversation during the draft, where we talked about Justin Fields was being disrespected. Right. No disrespect to Trey Lance, Zach Wilson, good young guys. They need a lot of work. Justin Fields was playing elite competition for 3 years at Ohio State. He was a Heisman finalist. He played well in the college playoffs, and yet teams were treating it as if he was some afterthought. He should have been the guy that the Jets drafted, because we see now with the lack of talent they got in Chicago, he keeps them competitive every week because he's used to playing big time competition. This is nothing new to him. He's played in front of 70,000 people every week in college. So this is nothing new to him when he's facing the Eagles and he plays well like he did today, or any other team for that matter.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. Shout out to Ryan. I see you in the chat, man. Yeah, Justin Fields has been balling this season. Now I would like Justin Fields to pass the ball a little bit better, but he's taking control of the game by himself, single handedly. They got Montgomery, they got a couple of guys, but the running game is pretty banged up right now. Khalil Herbert is still out, and he's been turning on the Jets the last outside of the was I think he missed like 1 or 2 games, but outside of those 2 games, he had been turning on the Jets. He's putting up Michael Vick, Lamar Jackson running numbers.
Yeah,
he's about to be the I think it's the 3rd guy to crack what was it 1,000 in the season, something like that. But he's definitely doing his thing. I would like to see him pass the ball a little bit better. But back to Zach Wilson in the Jets. I don't know what they do with Zach Wilson next season. I don't know. Do you keep him on the roster? Do you trade him? And just go with Mike White and keep Joe Flacco as the backup. What do you think, though, Eric? Do you think the Jets wind up trading Zach Wilson next season?
I think they will.
And what can you get?
Say that again.
What can you get for Zach Wilson in the trade?
Well, you could still get some pieces back. I mean, again, we're talking about a guy who was a high first-round pick who's still on his rookie contract, and with the right coaching, shout out to Ryan. He said bring him to the Giants, but with the right coaching, you can mold him the way you need to. Again, he's still very raw, and that's why I think there will be a lot of interest in him. If I'm the Jets, I wouldn't trade him. I think you take every opportunity. Remember, he's only in year 2. Let's not act as if this is a guy who has been around the league and he just can't get right. It's year 2. So, but I think the Jets will trade him because, as you mentioned, it's kind of lost the locker room. The coaching staff has kind of lost faith in him, and maybe a change of scenery is what's best for him. Again, I think you might not get a first for him, but you might get a second and a fourth, or multiple 3rd-round picks. You'll be able to get some value for him. But with the right coaching, maybe Brian Daboll is the right coach. We saw what Brian Daboll did with Josh Allen, who was another guy who was very young and who struggled early in his career, and then they turned him into the MVP caliber quarterback he is now.
Yeah, you're right. Oh, I mean, he did have the addition of a guy by the name of Stephon Diggs.
Listen.
Yes, but no, I agree with you.
That's how it happens too, right? Because Stephon Diggs has openly admitted that his career has been rejuvenated by Josh Allen, right? Stephon Diggs couldn't wait to get out of Minnesota because he felt Kirk Cousins wasn't the quarterback for him, and he gets with a good quarterback, and now we see his game elevate as well.
Yeah, which even though I still feel like it was kind of crazy because Stephon Diggs was still beasting in Minnesota. It's not like we've seen no huge difference in his numbers in Buffalo than we saw in Minnesota, because he was pretty much putting up the same, beastly numbers. And if you look at Justin Jefferson and the numbers that he's putting up right now as well, but I get it. He didn't want to be in Minnesota and with Kirk Cousins, so I do get that.
Right.
But yeah, I think a second and a fourth is probably what they could the market value for Zach Wilson. Just because, again, he's been very up and down, and then once you get benched the way he got benched, that's going to take away a little bit from the trade value as well. So yeah, I think a second and a fourth would do it. At this point, I mean, I think the guys in the locker room they're all for Mike White, and I like Mike White. I think he got that swag about him, so I rock with him. I was tight he didn't get to play today, so
yeah, I mean, if you feel Mike White's the guy, then I can't blame the Jets for going that route. I just think it's just very, very premature to turn the page on Zach Wilson. Ryan, as you mentioned,
let's go. They turned the page on. Remember the Cardinals turned the page after the season on what's old boy
Josh Rosen. Yeah, but I think the scenarios are a little different because the Chargers. I mean, the Cardinals. I said the Chargers because Ryan is commenting about the Chargers right now struggling, but the Cardinals were in a unique position where new head coach with the number 1 overall pick, and he had connections and ties to Kyler through recruitment. So that was a unique situation. The Jets aren't going to be drafting high this year, right? They're going to be middle of the pack. So to move on from the quarterback, you got to be 1000% sure that Mike White is the guy. Because if he's not the guy, first round picks set you back a few years. You're expected to develop and grow and build a team around that first round pick. And if you give up on a high first round pick after 2 years, he goes somewhere else and develops, and then you still got Mike White, that could cost a lot of people their job. And to Ryan's point, I know Ryan mentioned about liking Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones looks a lot better now with Brian Daboll, but how many years did it take Daniel Jones to develop? He was a guy that was also very raw coming out of North Carolina, right?
Yeah.
So now you see sometimes guys develop a little later, some guys take a little more time to get it right. 2 years is just, for me, too soon to give up on a kid.
Yeah, well, I wish Daboll was with the Giants 3 years ago. Maybe it might have helped Daniel Jones, because this is actually his best his best season, at least that I've
Yeah.
his best season in the NFL under Brian Daboll. So hopefully he can continue to help him improve and get better. They got to get some weapons too to help him out, because this wide receiver corps that the Giants has is either injured or horrible. So they gotta they gotta definitely help him out, get him something, man. Um, Arizona, I want to go over to Arizona. Kyler Murray, one of the top young quarterbacks in the league, torn ACL. He's out for the season. Eric, I know you've had this vendetta with Cliff Kingsbury for some time now. um, when and now I mean I guess it's inevitable that he's going to be out of there. Um, where do the Cardinals go from here now? Because torn ACL, that could be a big deal, especially for a quarterback of Kyler Murray's size, because he's a smaller quarterback. I think he might be 5'10", but he has a very small frame, and he is ultra dependent on his legs to really do the things that he does. And he's had great moments, but a lot of that is attributed to his legs. So what do we expect from the Cardinals moving forward?
This is tough because the timing of this injury not only ends their season this year, they're 4-9, so we weren't expecting them to make the playoffs anyway. But it not only finishes this year off, it probably finishes next year off, right? Because this is a year-long recovery. So this is a guy we may not see back on the field until probably December of next year, which means that the Cardinals are going to probably be a bottom 5 team and pretty much playing tanking, I should say, not even playing. They'll be positioning themselves to be high in the draft. So it's a double dose of like bad luck. It kills this season completely. It probably kills next season. Cliff Kingsbury, I think, should have been fired. I thought he should have been fired last year or after last season. He kept the job. He may keep the job just as a lame duck coach, because it's not going to be a desirable job for many people if Kyler Murray is out for significant time next year. So he may just keep the job by default, just knowing that, all right, we'll start the coaching search once we have Kyler back. But Cliff Kingsbury is a terrible coach. It's not a vendetta trip. I just call it like I see it. The guy's a bad coach. We see a lot of bad coaches, but he's a very bad coach. The record shows that. The way he interacts with his team shows that. When your star quarterback is yelling at you from the field to the point where the star receiver now has to get in between because he looks like the quarterback looks like he wants to punch you in the face, that lets me know all I need to know about you as a coach.
All right, so the beef between Eric and Cliff Kingsbury will continue at least until midway through next season with the return of Kyler Murray. Eric, you have been on this campaign that it's time for Cliff Kingsbury to go. I know this must, aggravate you a little bit, the fact that Kyler went down, and it's probably going to be connected to Cliff Kingsbury's tenure with the Cardinals. Yeah. But I do want to wish Kyler Murray a speedy recovery. I hate to see guys go down like that with those kind of injuries. Hopefully he'll bounce back, come back stronger than ever. And who knows? Maybe the Cardinals can get back to the playoffs. They still got D-Hop, even though I sent you the video the other day with Belichick talking to Hopkins, trying to get the recruitment going early to get him to come to New England and help out Mac Jones. But who knows? Oh my goodness. So
Patriots gonna be in the mix, man. They're gonna have a lot of cap space.
Yes, that's good. And I think Belichick is like, you know what? I got to play catch up now. So I think we're gonna see Belichick spending that money and bringing over some heavy hitters this season.
I don't know if you got the game on in the background. I know we in live in real time. The Bengals have just put up 17 straight points. Brady has just committed his second turnover the second half, a fumbled handoff. The Bengals are rolling, man, and they might be putting Tampa away early in this one. That game was 17-0 right before the half. The Bengals got three real quick before the half, and they've been hot in the second half. T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd with touchdown catches.
If the Buccaneers don't maintain their composure and come back and win this, Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp might fight on Monday on Undisputed.
Yeah, they need to throw hands anyway because Skip played, that BS he did to Uncle
Yep.
Shay recently, but they definitely need to throw hands.
Yeah, exactly. Um, your boy, my boy, everybody's new guy, Mr. Irrelevant, the last man drafted, Brock Purdy. Back to back weeks now. He's looking good. I don't know, Eric. Like, so my question is, again, congratulations to him and the 49ers because they are looking better than they did with Trey Lance and Jimmy Garoppolo with Purdy as starting quarterback. My question is, what does this mean for Trey Lance if 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 Brock Purdy continues to play the way he's playing and leads the 49ers not only to the playoffs but gets at least one win?
If they get at least one win with Brock Purdy, I think there will be serious conversations about trading Trey Lance. And that's not to say Trey Lance doesn't have the skill. And I know what I said earlier about giving up on a quarterback too quick. This is a completely different situation because through 2 seasons, we haven't seen Trey Lance really play. He's only had one game under his belt before he got injured. So if you're the 49ers and I have a ready-made roster that wants to make another deep playoff run, we can't forget they were in the NFC Championship game last year. They were in the Super Bowl 4 years ago. This is a team that's built to win. And if Brock Purdy gives me the best chance to win games, I have to take a long, hard look at examining what it would take to just keep Brock Purdy as the quarterback. We've already invested in all the weapons: Debo, McCaffrey, Ayuk, Kittle, the O-line. So if Brock Purdy can go in and win a playoff game, he's done more than Trey Lance has ever done. And therefore, I got to have a serious discussion about keeping Brock Purdy as my quarterback. And Trey Lance, I think, would be dangled. I think they would see what the offers would be for Trey Lance because, again, completely different situation from the Jets. Jets are still building to be a contender. The 49ers are a contender. They don't need to wait on a quarterback.
Yeah, and it would be crazy to say this kid finishes off the year strong, gets a playoff win, maybe even possibly two, because they're gonna they're gonna be in a wild card at this point. Because I don't see both Minnesota and Philadelphia, you know what I'm saying, losing several games to end off the season. So more than likely, unless something astronomical happens, the 49ers will play in the wild card game. So, we could be talking about them winning one, but maybe even two playoff games before they possibly go home. And if that's the case, I think your fans would go crazy if you tried to bench Brock Purdy and then put Trey Lance back in. And again, like you said, nothing to do with Trey Lance's abilities, his talent, anything like that. But you can't bench a guy, especially a young guy like that, who's been winning for you, who leads your team to the playoffs after both your starters go down to get a playoff win. If he could do that, you know, I can't see you benching a guy in that situation. Which also, for Ryan, for you, there you go. There's another quarterback that's available that maybe the Giants could get next season. Maybe they could steal Trey Lance, and then I would say in that situation, if you do want to trade Trey Lance, then just try to re-sign Jimmy G for another year. If he takes it, keep him as the backup there just in case. But I like Purdy. I like what he's doing out there. I'm not going to refer to him in the way our good friend
Well,
will refers to him. But keep it up, man. Keep it going. That's two big victories right now with the 49ers. I think at this point they won the division. I
yeah,
think
they're going to win the division.
yeah, the Seattle losses are starting to pile up now. So I think they do win the division, which is going to be big for him as well. I know his confidence is going to continue to get better game by game. And the good thing about it is if you're a good game manager with a team like the 49ers, and you just don't turn over the football, you can go far because they have a great team in place already. They have one of the top defenses, and then they have one of the most potent offenses with guys like Debo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey, who are both running back wide receivers and can do it all. Then you add Brandon Ayuk and George Kittle, who had a great game, 92 yards and 2 touchdowns. The 2 touchdowns that Brock Purdy threw went to George Kittle. When you add all of those guys in, they have a solid offensive line. you know, that is a recipe for a deep playoff run if you are not turning over the football. And I haven't seen that thus yet where Purdy has made bad plays that would lead to turnovers. So, and unless because again, there's still games left where we could see that. But if he continues to play the way he does, he's now taken that starting quarterback spot from Garoppolo, from Trey Lance, whoever, anybody else at the 49ers guy. He put his stamp down and said, I'm here, I'm him, and this is my team now. And I love it. I can't complain. I love it. I love what the kid is doing out there.
Yeah, and you're right. It's tough, man, because if you're winning games and that fan base knows like this team is pretty good, and if he's winning games, why are we going to Trey Lance? And then the pressure you're going to put on Trey Lance by doing that as well, because if let's say Brock Purdy does, they're 10-4 right now. They're not going to catch the Eagles, as you mentioned. They're 3 games back of the Eagles for best record, so they're not going to catch the Eagles. But let's say hypothetically they win 12 games total and they get to 12-5, and Brock Purdy has won what 4 starts at that point, right? Mm-hmm. Then you get into playoffs and he wins a playoff game. Now, what does that pressure look like for Trey Lance? Because it's like you're an unproven guy who's played 1 game in 2 years. And here's this guy in Brock Purdy who won 4 out of his 5 starts and came in a relief effort in 1 game and won that game as well and won a playoff game. And the offense is clicking because he's getting everybody involved. But we're going to bench him for you. The pressure would be, I think, too immense to even bring Trey Lance into that situation, because people will look at it and say, we just won 12 games with Garoppolo and Purdy as our quarterback. Unless Trey Lance is going to win us 13 games, why are we switching quarterbacks? So it's a lot to ask. It's a tough situation for Trey Lance to be in as well. But again, it would be a lot to ask of him and the organization to say, let's move forward with Trey Lance.
And guess what, Eric? The next 3 games that the 49ers play, they got Washington, they got the Raiders, and they got the Cardinals. So I'm going to go out on a limb here and say the 49ers run the table on those 3 teams.
Depending on, I mean, the Washington game is going to have a lot of meaning to it, because obviously Washington is in a playoff mix, and obviously depending on what Washington does tonight could impact the significance of that game. The Raiders, same thing. If the Raiders find a way to win today and stay in the mix, that game's a difficult game. But the Cardinals at that point, they've already packed the locker room up. Going into the last week of the season, Cliff Kingsbury's already made vacation plans. They packed up the locker room. The boxes are all in the way. When guys are just moving boxes around, like just move that to the side real quick. It's already packed up. They'll destroy the Cardinals. So at the very least, I think they do at least win 2 of those last 3 games.
Yeah. And which is going to be very good for Purdy moving forward.
Right.
So now the game of the week, the big NFC East showdown between my New York Football Giants and those guys down there where you at right now, Eric, the Commanders. They change their names so often. I don't know the names anymore. Big game, playoff implications. Obviously, I mean, I'm always gonna go for the G-men in this situation, but I do think that this is a very winnable game. That either one of these teams could come away with the victory. For the Giants, though, I'm gonna need to, Saquon is having his best season since his rookie year. I think he's over 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns on the season. But the last couple of games, he has struggled. He has not reached, I don't think, 80 yards in maybe like 4 games. I'm gonna need Saquon to step his game all the way up in this one. He should be running all over Washington. He should have done that the last game, which ended. Obviously, we know it ended in a tie. I'm gonna need Daniel Jones to step his game up another level. This game right here is going to determine whether or not the Giants make the playoffs. This is a must-win for the Giants, also a must-win for the Commanders. So I'm going to need the Giants to step all the way up. I don't care which one of these banged up bummy receivers steps their game up this week, but one of y'all need to step it up tonight. Y'all got the marquee game, Sunday night football. I need to see something. I need to, you know, for everything that Brian Daboll has done this year to get you guys where you are, y'all need to start paying that man back in wins. And it's about that time.
Yeah, this game is big. I agree with Ryan. I think the winner of this game is going to make the playoffs. Detroit is putting a lot of pressure on that last spot for the playoffs now that they've gotten to 7-7. Seattle's falling apart a little bit, but they're still 7-7. I think the line is a little disrespectful again, though, Trip. I said it the last time when they played in New York, when they had Washington favored by 2.5 in Giant State, in MetLife Stadium, sorry. Oh, by the way, Saquon had a good first half. He struggled in the second half, and he struggled since then. So he's got to look the way he did in that first half of that last game. But the Giants should have won that game. It was one Tyler Heineke drive in the fourth quarter that saved the Commanders. Other than that, the Giant defense was stout. The Giants made great plays. They had that terrible, terrible unsportsmanlike penalty on their old lineman who came in flexing after a big third down conversion, which killed the drive for them. I like the Giants. They're getting 4 points. I like the Giants. I want to let you know, Trip, I should have told you ahead of time. I did a modified Bing Bong parlay today where I took the Knicks, the Nets, and the Giants as straight up winners. So the Knicks are winning right now. I expect the Nets to do their thing. So I'm going to be watching the TV closely. Giants, you guys are going to have to come through to cover the Bing Bong parlay. That's how I feel. Giants are going to win outright. I think they're the better team. And Daniel Jones, historically, has always played well in D.C.
Listen, see, Eric, this is why you're my guy. Okay, this is why you're my guy, Eric. Because yes, the Bing Bong parlay is in full effect, and I'm saying it right now. The Giants are winning Sunday night football tonight versus the Washington Commanders, and we making it to the playoffs. We might mess around and win a game too if y'all keep playing with us. All right, there you go. Let's get it. I know how to make you happy too, Ryan, in the chat right now. Because we need this, man. It's about that time. New York has been making moves. Everybody's stepping their game up in New York. Okay, this is about that time. So I'm gonna need the Giants to do their part, and you know, and get that win tonight, man. This is a game that we can win. And I think this is a game that we will win. Eric, we'll come back to Monday Night Football in a minute. That's why we on the live. I want to get to some NBA stuff. Um, couple of big injuries to some struggling teams with some big name superstars on them. NBA champions, the Golden State Warriors will be without Steph Curry. He's got a shoulder injury. He's going to be out a couple of weeks. And the bubble champions, Los Angeles Lakers, Mr. Glass injured his foot again, you know, and he's going to be out for a couple of weeks. Anthony Davis. It's crazy because what's the kid's name? I think it's Bubba, the one that trash.
Yeah.
So I'm like, he jinxed it because so he was on Funny Marco's show on YouTube, and they're interviewing Dwight Howard, and he's like, yeah, you know, he's talking about his issue with they had like a little issue with between Dwight Howard and AD. He was like, nah, AD, that's you talking about always down. I said, damn. And then Anthony Davis goes and gets hurt, tweaks his right foot. Like you just can't win for losing, man. Fortunately, the Lakers still was able to get the win the other night. Braun stepped up, but these are two big injuries for two struggling teams right now. Which one of these injuries, though, Eric, do you think is the bigger injury for these two teams that are both trying to get back into the mix of things?
I think it's AD. Got to be AD, right? The Warriors have more depth. Granted, you don't have anyone like Steph Curry. No one does. But they still got the pieces of a championship team, and Jordan Poole to get more minutes, and Clay's been playing better. You know, you'll get Wiggins' contributions as he returns from injury as well. So you could survive that. But the big thing we've been talking about the Lakers and why we said the Lakers needed to make a move already was because they had a lack of depth. They had Braun, AD, and then a bunch of other guys. And AD was playing probably the best ball he's played as a Laker leading up to this injury. I mean, he was putting up 30 and 14 damn near every night, you know, so now you lose him. Now, Braun's going to have to go back to playing 38 minutes a night, which you really don't want him doing anyway. You got to trust other guys a little bit more than they really should be trusted. And they still under 500, mind you. They haven't really worked out all the kinks either. They had a slow start. They played better. They've struggled lately. Now you lose AD. It hurts the Lakers more. The Lakers are struggling just to be a play-in team. And now you're telling me there's no official timetable when our second best players don't come back? Yeah, they're going to struggle, and they're going to struggle bad.
And that's why, Eric, I kept saying to you a couple of weeks ago that, and again, shout out to Russell Westbrook, because I think he's stepped his game up. He's probably by far, at this point in the season, has the lead as far as Sixth Man of the Year award goes. But this is why I kept saying that they need to go make that trade for Miles Turner and for Buddy Hield, so that you have another big man out there who can score, who can rebound, who can block shots, and can take some of that pressure, excuse me, off of Anthony Davis, so that he doesn't have to work as hard every night. And again, I love what Anthony Davis was doing the past couple of weeks. I think he was averaging like 30, 15, and like 2.5 blocks, damn near over the last couple of weeks. But this is a guy who is injury prone. We know that. You got to have another big out there that can get him a little bit more, more rest from here and there. And they didn't do that, and now they lose Anthony Davis. I agree with you. I do think this is the bigger loss, because even with the Warriors, obviously you never want to lose a Steph Curry, one of the greatest players of all time. But you're right. They do have depth, one, and two. The Warriors are really a very young team. Outside of the big three, the Warriors are a pretty young team. So they'll be all right. And they got guys that can step up and score the basketball. Obviously, we know Jordan Poole is there. Andrew Wiggins can step up a little bit more, give you a couple of minutes. Jonathan Kuminga, can give you a couple more minutes coming off the bench. So I think, they'll be in a better spot, even though they're struggling right now as well. But with the Lakers, you're talking about a relatively older team. And obviously, this ain't Cleveland LeBron. It's damn sure ain't Miami LeBron. So it's going to be tougher for LeBron to carry the team by himself. So I got to see what the Lakers do. I know they wanted to wait until Christmas before they decided to make a move. Well, Christmas is here, damn it. So I need to know what the Lakers are planning on doing, and whatever they're going to do, they are going to have to do it now.
I agree. And that's why when we had this conversation prior, I said the same thing. You couldn't wait to make the move. You had to make it as soon as possible for fear of one of your big two going down. And now, I mean, I don't know how they survive the next month if Anthony Davis is missing it. They're already, 4 games under 500? It's not going to get easier. More wear and tear on Braun. He's still going to need some nights off. Again, we're talking year 20 of the guy. He's going to need some time off at some point. I don't think you can really survive without Anthony Davis for a month. Oh, by the way, you mentioned him. Buddy Hield tonight is going for 20 against the Knicks. And they're in the third quarter. So he's been playing phenomenal for the Pacers as well. He's a shooter that they probably could have had last year, and they didn't make the move. You need those type of guys in. And for the Lakers, this is going to be a very trying time over the next month for them.
Eric, I said it before. I'm going to say it again tonight. F them damn picks. Go make that trade right now. Again, you mentioned it. I haven't seen Anthony Davis play this well. I don't even think the year they won the championship, Anthony Davis was playing the way he's been playing in the past couple of weeks. So you need to go out and get that man some help, because if Anthony Davis is going to play like that, and again, he's going to be out a couple of weeks, so he'll be back. I'll probably say towards the end of January he'll be back. But if he's going to come back, if he's going to play like that, then you got to go get some help and get some guys in right now that can help the Lakers now. Win some games and at least get into the playing tournament. Once you get into the playing tournament, it's anybody's game from there. If you can get in, you know what I'm saying, anybody's got a chance, because you made it there. Obviously NFL and NBA is different, but both times the Giants won the Super Bowl, they weren't the number 1 seed. They weren't the number 2 seed. The last 2 Super Bowls anyway. You know what I mean? But they got in, and they put in work, and they made it to the Super Bowl, and ultimately, they beat the Patriots, twice in the Super Bowl. So if you're the Lakers, you need to start making moves now. You should have already done it, just so that the chemistry could have been being built up. You didn't do that. But all right, whatever. Now we're here. Now it's put up or shut up time. It is what it is. It ain't like you could tank because you ain't got your pick. So you better do what the hell you got to do. You know what I mean? Because ain't no more tanking. Do what the hell you got to do right now. This is win now or I don't know what to tell you.
Please don't tank. We don't need Wembanyama playing with Zion. We don't need that to happen.
Well,
Because
hey,
Zion is started. I think he's starting to just scratch the surface a little bit. He's starting to show us like this. This is why everybody wanted me. But
yep.
just a
Got
quick
tired of all
update
that
again.
John Morant talk.
Right. Listen, we're recording live on a Sunday. The 4 o'clock games are heating up. The Patriots have come all the way back. They just took the lead. They're up 7 in Vegas. Tom Brady's thrown another interception in the second half. That's his third turnover of the second half. The Bengals are up 10 and they're driving again. They're looking to lay down the hammer there. And then the Chargers are up 7 on the Titans. That game has big time playoff implications because the Titans, that division is starting to heat up now that Jacksonville got themselves going. And the Chargers, they don't have a shot of winning the division. The Chiefs clinched that up today with their overtime victory, but the Chargers need to win if they want to keep pace as well.
Shannon Sharp coming into the studio tomorrow with his glasses already off. I'll tell you that right now. Eric. He's going into the studio with glasses off, ready for war. Yeah, that division is really tough. Um, Shout out to Jacksonville, an amazing come from behind victory today, sealed off by an overtime pick six. Trevor Lawrence, who I've been giving him flack, but each week he's been working on me, and I'm liking what I'm saying. I really cannot wait to see what they'll do next season when they have a true number one wide receiver in Calvin Ridley to go along with Travis Etienne, Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, Evan Ingram, who's had a resurgence with Jacksonville. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. But back to NBA though. Uh, you mentioned the Bing Bong parlay earlier with the Knicks and the Nets both in action tonight. Every once in a while, when our teams are doing well, Eric, I like to throw that in the rundown to make sure we can talk about them. The Nets are on a 5-game winning streak. The Knicks are on a 6-game winning streak right now. It's looking like it's going to go to 6 and 7 today. It's litty in the city, Eric. You might have to come up to New York. We might have to hit the Barclays Center and then hit the boardroom up at MSG.
I will be in town soon, so we might have to coordinate a trip to whichever team is playing. But I love
Okay.
it. I love it. As we talked about in the past, I think both these scenarios come down to coaching because coaching does matter. Jacques Vaughn has done an amazing job with the Nets, steadying the ship, quieting all the noise. They're not in the headlines for the wrong reasons. Everyone seems to have bought in. Oh, by the way, the Nets have been playing so good, we've forgotten that Ben Simmons ain't even been playing. Ben Simmons, who's
Damn.
supposed to be a big part, right? But that's again compliments to Jock Vaughn and the job he's done. Just listen, we just gonna keep quiet. We just gonna bust everybody ass on the court. We're gonna keep quiet and we're gonna handle our business. They've done that well. Tibbs for the Knicks. Tibbs has always been a stubborn head coach, but he finally let go of some of that stubbornness. And unfortunately, it's affected some guys' playing time because Derrick Rose doesn't play as much. Cam Reddish doesn't play as much, but he's trusted some of the younger guys, Miles McBride, Quentin Grimes. Those guys are getting more minutes, and it's showing the Knicks have played better. And Mitchell Robinson has played really well on the defensive end as well. I mean, Randall, Barrett, Brunson have done what they're supposed to do offensively. I think all
Yes.
three of those guys are already over 20 points tonight in the game against the Pacers. But Mitchell Robinson, what he's been doing defensively has been big for them as well.
Yeah. Shout out to Jalen Brunson. You know, I wasn't sure he could come over and be the guy. You know, anybody could look good, standing next to Luca with all the pressure that's going to be thrown on to Luca. But he has come to New York. He has held his own. I think he's great for New York City, for the New York Knicks organization. And I think he's going to continue to excel, continue to do great things. He doesn't turn the ball over much. He's a really good floor general. He's putting points in the basket, man,
Yeah.
and I love it. So big shout out to Jalen Brunson. Shout out to the Nets as well. Yeah, you mentioned they're doing this without Ben Simmons playing. Big shout out to Kyrie Irving. Um, he's been balling as of late. He said, "Oh, you want to take away your shoes? All right, now watch what I do. Oh, I'm gonna just give you this little buzzer beater. This is light buzzer beater to win the game for us. I'm gonna show you why you effed up by dropping me."
And I I feel, yeah. I mean, shout out to him. He made that game winner the other night. Now I feel like I jinxed it. I just checked the score. So the Knicks are tied with the Pacers in the fourth quarter. It's 87 all, but the
Damn
Nets are down 19 points in Detroit. I need y'all to wake up. Yeah, yeah. Come on. I wasn't expecting the Nets to be the part of the Bing Bong parlay that was going to be in danger, but
what
we're gonna
quarter?
have to. That's let me click back over. That's in the second quarter.
All right, so we got time to make
It's
things
a
right.
lot
Y'all
of time.
get it
Kyrie's
together.
got 13 points. It's a lot of time. Let me see what KD's doing. But I mean, the Pistons offensively, man, they put up 35 points in each quarter. They've been going off.
Yeah,
KD got 13. Kyrie got 13. It's the other guys, though. They just haven't played good defense and they not really getting much from everybody else.
yeah. I'm gonna need y'all to get that thing together. Before we leave the NBA, I'm just gonna say really quick, congratulations to CP3. He just got his degree from Winston-Salem State University. We always support brothers continuing and furthering their education. So, congratulations to CP3 on that. Before we get off the live, definitely got to talk baseball, man. Yankees made a big,
Oh,
big.
I heard there's a question. There's a question we got to get to.
Shout out to yo. First of all, shout out to the fans that have been sending us questions in. Obviously, if you don't know by now, the Yankees brought over Carlos Rodon. He's going to be their number 2 pitcher behind Garrett Cole, and right before my main man Nestor Cortez. Now, the fan mail question that we got is, who has the better rotation now, the Yankees or the Mets? Eric, I'll let you answer first, and then I'll give my take.
So it's it's actually a tougher question than people may realize because Cody Senga, the new Japanese pitcher that the Mets have, though looks amazing, we don't know how that translates to Major League Baseball. On the flip side, Severino hasn't been the same lately. Cole hasn't been as dominant as he was in the past. So for me, I like the Mets just slightly, just because I think you have a little bit more certainty with um Scherzer and Verlander. But then again, Verlander's 40 years old. Can he duplicate what he just did last year? I like the Mets slightly, and because of the depth at the rest of the rotation, Carrasco, Quintana, both those guys can get you 12 wins at the back of your rotation. Whereas for the Yankees, Severino has been up and down lately, and we got to see if Cortez can do it for more than 1 year. Both great pitching staffs, though. I just slightly like the Mets a little bit more.
Okay, so I'm just gonna obviously. I mean, y'all know the hat I
Of
got on,
course, we
but
know. I already know where you're going.
let me say this. I will say this: if the Yankees had brought over Verlander and this young kid out of Japan and still had the Grom, I think it wouldn't even be close. It would not even be close. I think the Mets would have the maybe even the best rotation in baseball period if they
Hmm.
had still had the Grom. Um, what I will say right now, I think it's even. To be honest with you, I think it's pretty even. Obviously, I mean, we know, yeah, we haven't seen Garrett Cole dominate the way he should, but he's still one of the top pitchers in the American League. Cortez, oh my goodness, he had an amazing year, and we know what we get from a 2-time All Star in Rodon. Um, but again, you're right. Severino has struggled, even though as later in the season he started coming on, getting a little bit better. But he has struggled. He's not what we had seen before the injury. He hasn't gotten back to that form yet. All right. But I think that the addition of Rodon is going to be huge for the Yankees moving forward. I still think I would like to get a little bit more depth in that rotation because guys get hurt a lot. Now, in regards to the Mets, you bring over uh, 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 the Cy Young winner from a season ago. But you're right, he is 40 plus now,
40 years old. He 40.
going into the season. Can he one? Can he do it again? And two, can he do it without the bat support behind him? Hold on one second, guys.
The feds be tapping in.
Yeah, so we got to shut down every once in a while. All right, we back to it. But yeah, so you know Can he do it again without the bat support? Because that's one of the reasons why Jacob DeGrom doesn't win 30 games every season, because you don't always get that bat support behind him. So where I'm not, it's not even necessary with Verlander. It's whether or not he's going to have that bat support behind him, in addition to his age. You know, the young kid they just brought over from Japan, that's a wild card. We know we've heard about what he's done. You know, we may have seen a couple of highlights
Right.
and not, but is that going to transition to uh Shohei Ohtani? I don't know. We're gonna have to wait and see. That's one of the unknowns. But then of course, obviously, the rest of the Mets rotation is pretty good. So I'm gonna say right now, I'm gonna say it's pretty even. Again, just because it's a wild card, and because even with Rodon, you know, it 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 takes a special kind of player to play in New York, no matter what the sport is. Everybody does not come to New York. Even I'm talking about great players that are in their prime still don't always come to New York and continue to excel. It's a very difficult place to play sports. And that's something that both the Mets and the Yankees have to deal with, along with obviously the Knicks, Nets, Giants, Jets, and every other team we have here in New York. So for right now, I'm gonna say it's pretty even. Obviously I would hope for the Yankees to pull away with, and make it to a World Series with that rotation. I think it's great. But I think both of these two teams now have some really good pitching rotations. Um, and I like what I'm seeing moving forward.
Yeah, and I agree. That's why I say I give the slight advantage to the Mets. It's not distinctive like, oh, they're definitely better. No, I think they're pretty even. I think I just trust a little bit more what Verlander and Scherzer give you um, at the top of your rotation. Some guys gonna have to prove it, but like you said, most guys you never know. Rendon is gonna have to prove it. For the Yankees, because now he's playing on the biggest market he's ever played on. So I think both pitching staffs are really good. Both these teams won 100 games last year. They're going to win 100 games again because they still got good, well-rounded teams. The Yankees, for me, the weakest link on the Yankees is Aaron Boone, is the manager. You can't do much about that. But the rest of the team is still good. They still hit. They're going to still win a lot of games. They play in a division that they're going to beat up on. Could that lineup get a little stronger? Yeah, because they do. You saw when they started relying too much on Judge as the season went on, they struggled. But the pitching is still strong enough to help that team. Mets and Yankees are both 100 win caliber teams.
Exactly. Really quick, I'm just gonna, because we still got a couple of topics we got to get to, but I'm just gonna sign us off from the TV show. Make sure you guys are following us on all of our social media, Instagram and Twitter at Real Fan Talk, Facebook.com/Real Fans Real Talk, and of course subscribe to that YouTube channel, YouTube.com// For the Fans Productions. And again, do not worry if you're not in New York City on Thursdays and you can't watch on Verizon 43 from 8 to 9 p.m. Don't worry. All you have to do is click on that website. It's right there on the screen, www.realfansrealtalk.com. Click the red button on the homepage and you can watch from anywhere in the world. Also, make sure you guys are subscribed to not only the Real Fans Real Talk podcast, but the Sanchez Show podcast as well, streaming on all major platforms. And for our grown and sexy fan base, Shooting the Shit podcast, make sure you subscribe to that as well. New episodes drop for Shooting the Shit every Thursday and Sunday. With that being said, Eric, give us a final thought for the TV show.
Hey, listen, man. We appreciate the love and support, man. Happy holidays to everyone out there. See us on Wednesday, as you mentioned, shooting the. Check us out Friday. We're gonna be back with the Friday Live next Friday. And happy holidays, man. We love you guys, and we hope you guys stay safe out there.
Yes, sir. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Please be safe this holiday season. Spread some love, man. Spread that love. That's all I'm gonna say, man. Just spread that love. For myself, Trip Young, my brother, co-host, Legend in Two Games, Eric Sanchez. We up out of here. Peace. All right, now let's get back to it. we got some things that we got to speak about, Eric. And I'm just gonna go straight to boxing right now. Ryan Garcia,
Let's go.
Tank Davis, supposed to be going down this year. But before we get to that fight, Ryan Garcia was supposed to have a fight next month, but he said, you know what? Like the way I've been telling the Lakers, F them picks. Ryan Garcia said, F that fight. I gotta get ready for Tank Davis. Um, wh- is do you? I guess him dropping a fight like that, such short notice. Do you think he's not as prepared, or he doesn't feel like he can be prepared enough for Tank Davis if he takes that fight in January?
I think it's a mistake by him and his team. Um, we see it so often where guys are inactive for long periods of time, then they get in the ring and they need 3 or 4 rounds to really loosen up. And in a fight against Tank Davis, where I feel automatically he is the underdog going into that fight. Make no
Right.
mistake, Ryan Garcia is a super talented fighter, great skill, great speed. I don't think he's on the level of Tank Davis. So if you're telling me that you would have gone, I think it's going to be by the time they fight, if they fight in April, I think it would have been a good 10 months since you have fought. And you're telling me you're going to get in the ring with arguably the most explosive and most dangerous fighter, whether you're fighting at lightweight, junior welterweight, or welterweight. I think Tank is the most explosive guy anywhere from 130 up to 150 pounds. He's the most explosive guy. You're going to get in there in that scenario. I think you're doing yourself a disservice. I think you're setting yourself up for failure. And I think you're setting yourself up possibly to get hurt. You got to take some sort of fight to knock off any ring rush you had. Stay sharp going into that game, to that fight.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't get it. I don't know why he would pull out of this fight like that. Um, I understand, who Tank is and what you're up against, but you're right. I think he should have kept that fight. And again, when I don't think that fight was going to be anything special for him. I think that would have been an easy, 1, 2, 3, get him up out of there, fight. So and I don't think it would have really made a difference, except in the fact that it would have helped shake off that ring rust. Um, I still, I had Tank before the decision to cancel his fight in January. I still have Tank now, and when we get closer to the fight, then I'm still gonna have Tank um as my winner of this fight. But I do think that him stepping in the ring in January would have definitely been a benefit to him, um as opposed to now. I think it's gonna be a detriment to him.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, I got to go back, but in his last fight, that fight was over in like 4 or 5 rounds. So it wasn't like he even got a full 12 rounds under his belt in that fight.
Yeah.
So you're talking about a lot of rust. You're talking about a scenario again where you go from not fighting to possibly fighting the most intense fight you could actually have at that weight. Because when we're talking mega fights, that's what comes along with being in a mega fight: the intensity, the atmosphere of two of the best fighting. And when you're rusty in that way, I don't like it personally. He may prove us wrong. He may go in there and still look sharp. Me personally, I don't like it. And I think most of the great fighters will tell you the same thing, because you see great fighters always take some sort of fight just to stay active. The moment you out of the ring too long, you get a little slow, you get a little rusty, you don't see the fight the same way, and then it takes you a few rounds to kind of get into your comfort zone. And against a guy like Tank, like I said, you can't afford to do that.
Yeah, I agree. So I don't know what the team is thinking, but in the words of the great Hulk Hogan, you better eat your vitamins and say your prayers because it might be a very long night for you once you step in that ring with Tank Davis.
And listen, again, he could prove us wrong, but I don't want to hear no excuses if you lose. I don't want to hear, well, I've been out of the ring 10 months. No, that was by choice, because
Of
Tank had
course.
been out of the ring, right? Tank has been out of the ring a little bit too, and you see Tank is taking the fight in January just to sharpen his skills before the mega fight.
Mhm. And you should have been doing the same thing, but you are not. So good luck to you. But again, I'm going Tank Davis in this fight. Um, had another fight going down this past weekend in the HBCU championship game. The our favorite, my favorite, your favorite, a lot of people's favorite, Jackson State University lose on a heartbreaker in overtime. Um, it was tough to watch. If you guys did see the game, I actually caught it a little bit late, but I got to see the overtime. But uh, Shador finds Hagler for the wide open touchdown, and he drops the football, and ultimately Jackson State drops the game, and that's it. But Eric, talk to me about that game. Talk to me again about Deion Sanders and the job that he's done, and then talk to me about what the critics are going to say about Deion coming off a tough loss like that.
Listen, first and foremost, I want to congratulate NC Central for winning. They played an amazing game. They
Yes,
had a great game plan. They harassed Shador Sanders all game. And listen, when you're the underdog, they were a 14-point underdog facing a team that has all of the glitz and glamour of Jackson State. It's very tough to stay focused. Them young men, they stood focused and they found a way to win that game in overtime. But to Jackson State, I thought Shador Sanders was amazing. I thought he made some great plays, specifically in that fourth quarter. You watch the game, they are losing most of that fourth quarter. They have multiple fourth downs that they had to convert, including the touchdown pass to Travis Hunter on fourth down, just to send the game in overtime. That's with 7 seconds left. He was amazing. He made the throws he needed to make. He tried to avoid sacks when he could. He had to move around a lot in that game. I thought NC Central did a great job of pressuring him, but he made a lot of plays. But the one we're going to keep talking about is the drop touchdown in the end zone. Shador could not have walked the ball to the receiver any better than where he threw it. It hit him in the hands,
bro.
right? And it was a third down, fourth down. Obviously, they don't convert, and the game ends there. For the critics, if you have anything negative to say about Deion or his team, you're a hater. Let's call it what it is. Deion did everything he could to put his team in position to win a game. Deion coached those boys up to perfection. Again, Shador could not have handed the ball to the receiver any better. The play call was perfect. His son executed his part. Unfortunately, the receiver didn't. As usual, Deion, I think, handled it with class, not only in his post-game press conference where he talked about, and I loved it. I know you saw a Trip where he said it's ironic that when I told you guys God called me here to be at Jackson State, you believe me. Now that I'm telling you God is calling me to be somewhere else, you don't believe me. Like, which one is it? You know what I'm saying? But there's a video circulating, and this is why I always harp on coaching. I know I talk a lot of trash about Cliff Kingsbury. I don't know him personally. It's all lighthearted. We're talking sports. But there's a video clip of Deion talking to the young man in the locker. The kid is crying, obviously. The kid feels it's his fault, and Deion saying it's not your fault. We win as a team. We lose as a team. You'll be better from this. We'll all be better from it. That's coaching. That's why it matters, because Deion Sanders is the epitome of what it takes to be a coach to these young men. I think he's done a phenomenal job. He's going to continue to do a phenomenal job, but the haters are going to continue to hate because they're always going to find a reason to be mad at Deion.
Yeah, I agree. Big, congratulations, to North Carolina. Um, Nothing short of amazing that game. Great all of from start to finish. They did an amazing job. They came to win a championship, and they did just that. But congratulations also to JSU. Unfortunately, you don't want to end the season like that where you go undefeated, win the SWAC championship. Who is SWAC? and and then you go into the championship game and you lose a heartbreaker. um, and it's unfortunate for Dion too, because obviously we know the haters are gonna pop back up now, because they lost the game. Oh, this is Dion's fault because he's leaving the team, and they probably was going through their mentals, and you're gonna have the critics that's going to find a way, some way to blame Dion for everything that goes wrong in the world now, that he's leaving Jackson State. But I mean, you couldn't ask for anything more from a coach. I tell you this, I don't know no other coaches in college or the pros that donating their salary to the organization. I
Yep.
tell you, I tell you that much right now. I don't know any other coaches that's out here getting freaking sponsorship deals and doing the things that Dion did, for Jackson, not even just for Jackson State, but for the state of Mississippi
Yep.
as a whole. So again, anytime we get to talk about Dion, you talking about a legend. You talking about a great from his from high school to college to the pros, to the media, and now on to coaching. And now that his tenure with Jackson State is officially over, I want to again congratulate him and wish him nothing but the best as he heads over to Colorado. And I hope they get to a bowl game in his first year in Colorado. And
Colorado is getting a phenomenal head coach. We've seen the clips. Like you said, I'm bringing my luggage and it's Louis. We know Travis Hunter will be following him over there. Shador will be following him over there. So they're getting a great coach and they get some great talent right away. But Dion did everything he could, man. And they lose, the championship game 2 years in a row. That's what people will harp on and people will talk about that, but they won't, like you mentioned, they won't talk about all the great, not just good, the great that he brought to Jackson, Mississippi. He did a phenomenal job. He deserves to be applauded for that.
really quick before we get to the Monday night game, Eric, um, just talk to me about how great Travis Hunter was in this game.
He was phenomenal. Um, he came in there and in the second half pretty much was playing both sides of the ball almost every snap. And when I say almost, obviously there were some situations where they would take him out, try to get him a breather and get him back in there. But he caught 2 touchdown passes in the fourth quarter of that game that they needed. And we're talking high level catches. We're not talking, oh, he's wide open. Both of those catches were on fourth down. Look at the route running. The first touchdown he caught in the fourth quarter, they had him double team. And he splits the double team with a great post move, gets open at the back of the end zone for a touchdown. And in the second one, he has to adjust midair on a ball that's thrown a little short, gets both feet down to tie the game. Again, the amount of pressure in those circumstances, if he doesn't make one of those plays, they lose in regulation. He makes both those plays, not to mention probably played 60 snaps on defense as well. He was truly phenomenal in that game, man.
Absolutely. And I got him in my franchise. I'm like 4 years in. So I wound up drafting him to my team and Madden this season. So I'm happy for him. I'm happy that he's gonna be following Dion over to Colorado. I expect great things from him, Shador, and from Dion this upcoming coming school year. So big shout out to the three of those guys.
That's a
Um,
fact.
all right, now NFL Monday Night Football, a game that really does not matter for anything because neither one of these teams is making the playoffs. But we still got to talk about it because that is the Monday Night Football game. Uh, the Los Angeles Rams, Super Bowl champions, versus the MVP from a year ago, Aaron Rodgers. Who you taking in this game and why?
I think you got to take Green Bay. Listen, Baker Mayfield made some things happen last week. Somehow they beat the Raiders, but no Aaron Donald in this game. They're still banged up at receiver. They still don't know what they're doing with their running game. Green Bay has been okay. The record won't suggest that because they had a really tough 2 month stretch. But offensively, Green Bay is still Green Bay. I like Green Bay in this one. Again, it's not much on the table. It's not much on the line for either one of these teams. One is 5-8, the other one's 4-9. Green Bay definitely ain't making the playoffs. Obviously, we know Minnesota's already clinched the division. It would take a miracle for the Rams to even get in the conversation. I got Green Bay.
Yeah, I'm taking Green Bay in this one as well, and not just because I picked up their defense in fantasy football. um, but yeah, I obviously we saw some Baker magic a week ago with that last minute drive, but I just I mean, both of these teams is horrible, but I do like the chemistry a little bit better with the Green Bay Packers. That Aaron Rodgers has with his rookie, the kid Watson, and Aaron Jones. Obviously, we know he's still going to be around. So yeah, I'm going Green Bay in this game. Yeah, just pretty much that's it. I'm going with Green Bay. It is what it is. Lastly, Eric, before we get out of here and get ready for this Sunday night game, I do want to talk Thursday night football. I mentioned earlier that the Jets playoff hopes are done, but they are in a position to play spoiler for a lot of teams. This Thursday night's game is the Jaguars at the Jets. The Jaguars are very hot right now. You mentioned how competitive that division is looking, especially as far as the playoff race goes. We had a division game today between the Titans and the Chargers. The Raiders just came back and they beat New England. So there's a small chance But what do you think? Does Jacksonville go to MetLife and beat the Jets and keep their playoff hopes alive?
Yeah, so crazy ending, like you mentioned with the Raiders. They won the game on a recovered fumble with no time left to score. But um Jets are holding on for dear life at this point, 7-7. I think the Jets win. The defense is still good. A short week after an emotional win for Jacksonville, they won on a walk-off interception. Now they got to travel to New York. It's gonna be brick up there. You know it's gonna be cold. I like the Jets. In the defensive battle, I like the Jets.
Um,
It's crazy. The Raiders scored 14 points in the last 30 seconds of that game to win.
that's embarrassing for a Bill Belichick led team. I'm sorry.
Yep.
I don't I don't even know what to say to that. Somebody's getting balked on in that locker room right now.
Oh yeah.
I'm,
Yeah.
I'm
And
sorry.
and Cincinnati's finishing up their game. They scored 31 unanswered points in the second half.
Yep. Shannon, Uncle Shay is coming in with his glasses off. I think tomorrow is going to be a stocking cap or do rag Black and Mild Henny Cup day for Unc. He got to go to war because I know he getting ready to blow
And
Skip Bayless out of the water.
that we know some people who are big time Tom Brady supporters, and I get it. He is the GOAT at the quarterback position, but this loss falls squarely on Tom Brady. He threw two interceptions and lost a fumble in the second half of that game. The Bengals were down 17-3 at half, and their defense is what turned this around and got it going for Joe Burrow and them. Joe Burrow only threw for 20 yards.
You know we're gonna hear the excuses though.
Yeah.
It's gonna be somebody else's fault. But yeah,
Yeah.
but going back to Thursday night football. You know what? I am gonna take the Jets in this game as well. Obviously for them it's a meaningless game, but I
No, no,
think
no, no. Don't say that. It's not meaningless. It still
well,
means a lot for them. They 7-7 right now. The Jets are still in a position.
yeah, I guess, but yeah. So I think Mike White comes back. I think the team kind of rallies behind him. You know, this was a big emotion of fest of a game for Jacksonville going to overtime with Dallas and winning the way they did. So I'm gonna take the Jets at home in that game. I gotta see who the Giants playing next week because I might want to take the Bing Bong parlay next week, but we'll discuss that on Friday when we get back on the live. Make sure you guys are all tuned in with us on Friday nights. We're on Facebook with the homie Will Gordon. Eric, anything else you want to get to before we get up out of here, man?
Nah, man, like I said, just keep tuning in. We're gonna see you guys on Friday night for the Friday Night Live series. It gets intense. We got picks, we got winning picks, we got more talk, and I'm creating a top 5 list that we're gonna have on the show this week as well. So it's gonna be a good one.
All right, man. With that being said, officially now for myself, Trip Young, my brother, my co-host, Legend in Two Games, Eric Sanchez. We up out of here. Peace.